On Tuesday, as Congress prepares to vote on a resolution authorizing limited military strikes against Syria, here to give us some insight and his perspective on the issue is Congressman Scott Peters. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Bridget. Thanks for having me.
Let's get right to it. The President's asking for support for these targeted strikes. Where do you stand on this right now?
Well, what I've been trying to do in the last couple of weeks in the district is take in a lot of input about this. I'm going to head back and trying to keep an open mind. I got to tell you that folks in San Diego are generally pretty not too positive on the idea of going back to war, even taking action as the President's proposed. I'm going to go back a little bit early, so tomorrow I can have a classified briefing. I'm going to try to keep an open mind, but I think it's a tough sell.
Speaking of the classified briefing, some videos have been released. Senator Dianne Feinstein apparently requested some videos, and we have aired them. They're pretty graphic. Have you seen the videos? If so, what are your thoughts on them? And do you think something like that would persuade you to take action depending on what it is?
I don't think there's any question that these are really atrocities, that they're awful. And I think the videos just reinforce that. It's really terrible what Assad has done to his own people and to children. The question is, what can we do about it? What should we do about it? And that's the harder question. Is this something that we should be addressing on our own? Is this something that, without the kind of full support that we've traditionally enjoyed from the international community? And then what would be the end game? What's the objective? And then kind of what would be the result? What would be the reaction? Those are the kinds of questions I think we need to understand before we
Prior to the release of the videos, a lot of Americans have said we're war weary. We're committed in Iraq. We look what's happening there, Afghanistan. But then you see some of these kids, and there's a discussion about that line. How do we, as a country, stand up and say the line has been crossed, especially with chemical weapons? And the fact that the President is going to Congress to get backing for this. What's your perspective? Do we have to take a stand, being the United States, and saying, this line has been crossed?
Well, I think we're in a tough spot, and the problem with this, I don't think there's necessarily a great answer either way. We've seen genocides and terrible activities throughout the world, and many times we look back and we say we wish we would have done something about that. At the same time, I hear from people all over San Diego, including ex-military, we can't be the world's policeman. We have to take care of getting our military in shape for threats that are more direct to us. And there are a lot of needs that are unaddressed here. I think really what people are concerned about and what we'd have to watch out for is that we would get into another prolonged effort like we have been in the last decade. And I would say weary is the right way. People is the right kind of phraseology. People are weary of that, and they're wary of it too.
Let's talk a little bit about the budget situation, because I know that's something you're very concerned about in Congress as well. Right now, it's unresolved, and we're facing possible shutdown. What do you hope to accomplish in that arena?
I'm very frustrated that it's come to this. I can tell you that the freshmen like me who just got elected, we all expected to be coming to work and working through problems. A lot of us have that background. And the politics is still predominant there in Congress. And 20% of the Congress is new. A lot of us in a bipartisan way would like to make progress. I ran on something called no budget, no pay. The idea that if we don't pass a budget as Congress, we shouldn't get our paychecks. We got that through the House, and we forced the Senate to pass a budget. Now we need to appoint negotiators from the House and the Senate to negotiate a compromise so we don't go through this budgeting by crisis, which puts our businesses and our families in a lot of uncertainty that they can't plan from, and it's not good for the country.
Some of the freshman members of Congress, you have been able to collaborate a little bit more. You've got this bond going on trying to get cooperation. In Washington?
Right. I would say, 2012 was an exasperation election. It was, people said to everybody, stop fighting, go to Washington and get something done. So if we can carry that attitude from our class through, I think that would be great. Unfortunately, there are just a lot of people there who still are fighting those battles, who have a lot of partisanship and bitterness. We really have to move beyond that. Our country deserves better. When you talk about the military or our economy, or families, or schools now. I heard that a lot of the investment in schools is up in the air. We just need to do a better job of responding to people with a real budget that they can count on and plan on.
Let's talk about some political issues here at home. I'm sure you're well aware.
Has anything been going on at home?
There's a couple things. Yeah. We've got a mayor's race, believe it or not. Are you endorsing anyone at this point?
I haven't yet. I'm thinking hard about that. I'm pretty good friends with Nathan Fletcher. I think a lot of him and his leadership ability. And I know that the field's not entirely settled, but he's made outstanding progress in the state legislature. And what I like about him, and I hope we'll have a discussion, is beyond this battle of downtown versus neighborhoods or just talking about pipes and potholes, what's our future as a city? We have so much going on here that is of worldwide significance in San Diego, and we don't give ourselves enough credit. We don't think big enough, and I hope that this mayor's race will offer the opportunity for San Diegans to do that.
Your perspective is interesting as a former council member,
right.
So you have a unique perspective,
right.
The insiders.
I mean, all that stuff is important, but it's not the whole discussion. The real discussion for us is how are we going to provide an economy and a future and a quality of life that's going to sustain not just us, but our kids. And I know you have your own, and I have mine. We love them to be in San Diego, and we love them to have great opportunities here. And we want San Diego to continue to be a great place to live, a place that attracts talent. And that's more than just these sort of political battles of downtown versus neighborhoods or, fixing up the pipes. All that's important.
Right.
Every place needs attention. But let's talk about more than that, I hope.
All right. Congressman Scott Peters, we know you have a busy schedule. We really appreciate you stopping in.
Thanks so much for having me.
Good morning.